Guys, it's way too nice out. I'm filming this tutorial in the park today. Hi guys, it's Nick with the Whip Shop, and on today's video I'd like to show you a simple and fast method for replacing falls and crackers on your nylon whips. Now there's two main parts of a whip that are considered replaceable. One is the fall, the second is the cracker. Now anytime you're accelerating something from 0 to 1,400 miles per hour or greater in less than a second, you better believe that the act in and of itself of doing so is going to wear out those parts of a whip. So you don't even have to be abusing your whip. You don't have to be cutting targets all the time, slamming it on concrete. It doesn't matter. You don't have to hit anything with the tip of this whip. It's going to shred away over time because of the shock wave. This thing's going over the speed of sound in less than a second. So that's going to wear it out. But the good news is they're very easy to replace. Crackers. Crackers are the #1 part of a whip that are going to wear out the quickest, depending on how often you use the whip. And the general rule of thumb is the further down the whip you go, the more wear that part of the whip is going to experience. Particularly, the cracker is really under the gun in this case. It's kind of an obvious thing to say. Of course, crackers are easy to replace, but in this video I'm going to show you one of my favorite ways to replace them and also attach them. Second is the fall. Now the fall won't have to be replaced as often as the cracker. Changing a fall on a nylon bullwhip can be a really daunting thing, especially for beginners, because there's the misconception that whenever you make a new fall and attach it, you have to undo the fall hitch. Untie this, everything. You have to, pull it out and retie the fall hitch. And in some cases, that is a fact. But most of the time you don't have to. So let's go over to the vise right here. Let's put the whip in there and let's replace this fall without untying anything. Now before we start here, I'm just going to make a new fall. Got about a 3.5 foot piece of gutted 550 paracord. So we're just going to quickly make a fall by threading the parachute cord in itself. I doubled the cord in half. We're going to pull it down, make that little loop, about a little less than 1/4 of an inch loop on the end. And there we go. Now we can pull this out. I love being outside when it's nice. Got my lighter. Let's singe this parachute cord here. A little windy today. Okay, so we have a brand new fresh fall prepared. Just going to open this eye up a little bit and just lay this aside. Now it's time to take the old fall off. Now in order to do this, I'm using this pair of needle nose pliers, and what we're going to need to do is loosen this fall right here, this red fall that you see. Now the only strand that we're going to have to pull out is this last strand that we tied the fall hitch with. Now let's pause for 1 minute here. I don't want you guys to get confused. You may see that last strand that we used to pull that fall hitch into place, the 4th strand. We looped it through underneath that fall, and notice how it comes back around and feeds through once again. Now don't get confused here. This is a method that I used to use, and some whip makers prefer it. Obviously I used to. And the reason that I stopped doing this was because it was just adding a little bit too much bulkiness to that fall hitch. So I stopped. So I don't want this part right here to confuse you guys. So that being said, let's resume. I'll leave it just like that. The next step is to slide the new fall over everything. It's very important that you do that first because it's going to assist us in attaching that new fall without having to pull anything out. So here's our new fall, opening up that eye, and I'm going to slip the old one through, pull it up like this, and we'll just let it rest here. I'm going to cinch this down just a little bit so it doesn't slide around. Now we have to dislodge the old fall from the hitch here. And we're going to do so by pulling it out with a needle nose pliers like this. Now this is going to be really tight because hundreds, perhaps thousands, if you're a performer, hundreds of thousands of times this whip has been cracked, and every time you crack it, it's seating this fall into place tighter and tighter and tighter. So it's going to take a little bit of strength to pull it out. You may want to use a FID or an awl, and this tool can sometimes help open that up a little bit and just relieve some of the pressure. I'm going to do this by sticking the FID in from the back here. So you can see it's already starting to loosen up. And the key is to pull this that way, okay? Now this isn't the prettiest fall hitch, but it sure did do a good job of holding this fall in place. Pretty soon I'll be able to switch over to my pliers. I'm going to go in the front a little bit and really use this leverage. See what I'm doing? I'm kind of using this as like a fulcrum here and just levering that right out. It's coming out pretty well. I'm going to switch over to my pliers and continue to pull on this fall. I'm just going to work on this for a little bit here. Just continue what I'm doing. Turn it a little bit. Keep on pulling. You can see that, wow, a bright red underneath there. This whip has seen quite a few cracks in its lifetime. Whip is slipping out of the clamp here. This is the whip that was featured in the Ferrell's tutorial. So it's been around for a while. Okay, there comes the fall. Perfect. Now, because the fall is sort of like a slider knot, what we're going to do is open that eye up like I just showed you with the new fresh fall. Like this. A little more slack coming out of there. Just like this. Continue to open that eye up. Excellent. We are almost done, believe it or not. So now that we have the old fall loosened up, we're going to take the end of our new fall. We're actually going to cut it. Now we're going to cut the old fall right here. And go ahead and remove this part, discard that, or keep it if you like keeping random worthless pieces of parachute cord. Which I've been guilty of a few times. Now we're going to take the new fall and fuse it on to the old fall. And what we're going to do is use the old fall to pull the new fall through the hitch. Now let's pause once more. You guys might be watching this video and saying, Nick, why didn't you just take the old fall off to begin with, pull it out, and just throw it away before you even attach the new fall? Why go through all this work? Why can't you take your Permalock needle and thread it onto the new fall and just thread that needle through the fall hitch? Well, I tried this before, and what happened was that tunnel underneath the fall hitch closed up on me, and it was very difficult. Not very difficult, but it was just kind of a nuisance to get the needle through. So I say always keep something in that tunnel to hold it from collapsing on you. That's the only reason I'm doing it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and fuse the new fall onto the old fall. So we have the old fall and the new fall fused together. Took a long time with this wind to get that lighter to get hot enough to actually melt these two together, but that was the tough part. Now it's time to pull the old fall downward, and we're going to pull the new fall through the hitch. So gently pull. Sometimes different colored paracords, the dies, they don't like to fuse together very much, so be gentle. And there we go, we made it through. So you can see that last strand is through the fall, so there's no need to do that. We took care of that step. And when you cinch this up a little bit, hold this strand so it doesn't buckle like this. I'm holding it, just working it through gently, sliding the fall down, work it down, So working that fall down into place, holding that strand. There we have it. A brand new fall has been attached to the whip without having to untie anything except for this one strand, which I'm now going to snip. A little bit of excess there. I'm going to singe it so it doesn't fray. And there we go. Completely replaced. Now the last and most obvious step here is to cut off the old fall, unless you want an unnecessarily 3.5 to 4 foot long fall that's going to just end up causing too much drag and making the whip harder to crack. So I'm going to cut this here. There's the old fall. And we're going to singe the end of the new fall so it doesn't fray. Now that wasn't too bad, was it? We didn't have to untie anything. We fused the old fall to the new fall, pulled it through, and it fell into place. The actual work was done when the whip itself was made. So if you take care not to use your whip on gravel and concrete and actually physically beat up the fall hitch, everything should be okay to where you should be able to replace your fall in this fashion so you don't have to untie anything. Now let's move on to the cracker, which is of course much easier. Now up until about 2 years ago, I used to just tie my crackers onto the fall. The reason I stopped doing that was because they kept coming off no matter what I did. So I just kind of came up with this little idea. I'm probably not the first to come up with it. It's a sure way to hold that cracker in place. You're gonna get full use out of that cracker. Let me show you. Got a brand new cracker here prepared and ready to go. Now the old way that I used to attach crackers was the traditional way. Just a half hitch knot. You loop it through, take the cracker and loop it around the back and just pull this super tight. And they kept popping off. And I just one day got tired of it and said, what can I do to make this not happen anymore? And I figured, well, I'll take a fid and I'll poke a hole through the fall like this and feed this cracker through there. That way there's no chance of this cracker coming off. So before we do that, we'll just leave the fall, we'll leave the fid in there so it stretches it out for a minute or so. I'll take my cracker and just kind of twist it the way that it wants to twist, just to make this point nice and fine so we can slide it through the hole that we made in the fall. Now if you notice, we're not actually making a hole in it. We're taking all of these fibers, these nylon fibers that make up parachute cord, and we're just pushing them aside. So it would be a problem if we were actually cutting these fibers, because over time they would just fall out. So we're not disassembling the parachute cord at all. We're just merely moving strands over to make room for the fall to slide through. So now we're going to take this out. We should see a nice hole. We do. See the light shining through it. I'm going to poke the cracker through like this. And just like we would do it the traditional way, we're going to open an eye on the cracker. Take the tassel end and feed that through the eye like this. Then we're going to slide that eye that we just fed the cracker through. We fed it through itself, and now we're going to feed the fall through that as well. So once that's been fed through, we can pull this nice and tight, and I guarantee you this will not fall off, and there will be no need to take it off until this cracker has been spent and you need to put a new one on. And when you do need to put a new one on, replacing the cracker is just like replacing the fall on the whip. It's the same principle but on a smaller scale. We just feed it back through like this. Just pinch it. And then slide it through. So theoretically, if you had different sizes of crackers that you like to use, this is like a quick way to like interchange crackers on your whip. And a video on that is coming soon, how different size and different length crackers affect the pitch, the ease of cracking, and how they affect the cracking of a whip in general. So this is a quick way to attach a cracker and ensure that it will not come off. I do it every time I make a whip. I use this method, so I hope it works for you too. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching the tutorial. I hope that the next time you go to replace your fall or cracker, or both, that you can do so quicker and more effectively. As always, I'd like to give a huge thank you to April Throgmorton and all of my other supporters over at patreon.com. Guys, thank you so much for your support. It's because of you all that I'm able to keep videos like this one coming. Also, please do consider hitting the subscribe button if you like what you see. There's many more videos to come, and it helps the channel a whole lot. Thank you guys so much. Keep on plating, keep on cracking. I'll see you guys in the next video. Got a developing tornado. 4:32 p.m. Developing tornado. This is all outflow here. 4:25 p.m. Strong tornado on the ground. Oh, it's right here.